the hardest thing for people to do is to start. That one thing that is keeping you up at night, you're wondering when you're going to begin, you're wondering if the time has passed for you to actually do this thing. Well, you'd never know who it's going to actually impact or who you're going to be able to empower. But today, we have something special for you guys. Someone that is building something that is empowering women and impacting lives and being able to put them on the spotlight for them to share their own stories as well. Today, we have Sabrina Rose.
Having a business, you run into so many different ups and downs and obstacles and things like you never thought that like you would run into, and just being able to pick yourself up and keep going.
A lot of times we have this big visual of what the end could look like, and it's so massive that people actually don't start anything because it's way too big. Mm-hmm. What if people were just to take one step at a time?
I was just spotlighting, every woman, like they all deserve to have an article about them.
And that's why I say Jesus was the best content creator ever. Wow. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. I am fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was a great way to introduce me. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for blessing us with your presence and everything that God has imparted within you.
Thanks.
So today, the name of your company is called Creatively Linked. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why that name?
Yeah. So Creatively Linked. Honestly, I had the name like when I was young. Like I have old notebooks, and I always knew like growing up that I wanted to create something that just empowered women and had like meaningful messages on shirts from a young age, because I feel like when growing up, like that wasn't really a thing that we had. I feel like nowadays, like the teens and stuff have a lot of that, which is awesome to see. But that's kind of where it started, of just wanting to have a positive message for women. And so the name kind of comes from just being able to link women together creatively. And we all, have a creative talent. And so like literally that's kind of where it started. And we are forever linked together because we are women. We must stand tall, never fall. We must be synced, for we are creatively linked. Nice. So that's kind of where it came from.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. So you said you had this idea from when you were a little girl. Mm-hmm. And I've always said this. I feel like everyone's creative talent, it's something that people understand from as little kids.
Yeah.
And then eventually the everyday life gets in the way of this. You must go to school, you must get a job, you must eventually get married, have kids, and then that's it. But there's something that God has deposited into everyone, that we all need to remember whatever it was as a little kid and let that come back to life. So that's really cool. Creatively linked. Yeah. And do you have a framework that you use, for Creatively Linked as your, company, or for your life, just in general?
A framework, like what do you mean exactly?
Like, would you say you have like steps, like values, I should say?
Like the principles.
The principles,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I will preface that I'm a very new business owner. Mm-hmm. So, I'm still learning as I'm going. But yeah, like some of the things that have worked for me I have like kind of 3 principles that I have that I use. And so like the first one I would say is just being resilient. I feel like having a business, you run into so many different ups and downs and obstacles and things like you never thought that like you would run into, and just being able to pick yourself up and keep going. Because I know like we were talking earlier how like sometimes you don't keep going, like, oh, you have to be doing something for a year and people quit.
Yeah.
So just kind of realizing that it's like, okay, you're going to run into issues and learning how to resolve them, and just being able to pick yourself up. And because I've had to do that many times so far. So I feel like it's something that I try to make sure I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, I would say always elevating.
Mm-hmm.
I try to, like even the tiniest thing in the upward direction is something I really try to do. And as a new business, you have to always be pushing yourself to elevate and kind of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to do things, because a lot of great things come out of being uncomfortable,
Right.
which I've learned, like even here doing this podcast, I'm a little nervous, but I'm glad that I'm forcing myself to do it. And it's something I can add to like what I've done as a
Right.
business owner. And also just, it doesn't have to be huge things. Like for me, like I've started out really small and they've been small steps, but looking back, I'm just like, oh wow, like look how much I've done. Like
Right.
in the moment, it doesn't feel like it, but you're still elevating.
Right.
So
Oh, that's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then the third thing is just providing a quality product, really. I have actual apparel, so it's like I want people to know that, or Creatively Linked strives to have good quality products, and learning that. And I feel like as a business owner, that's something that should be super important to
Yeah.
provide. So
Yeah.
those are kind of like my things that my
That's really cool.
principles. Yeah.
So the first one is be resilient, and then always moving forward, and then your third one was
Quality.
quality product. Those are really cool because even something that you mentioned about people quitting before they get to the 1 year mark or whatever it is. I think that's why I started this podcast saying that the hardest thing for people to do is to start.
Yeah.
A lot of times we have this big visual of what the end could look like, and it's so massive that people actually don't start anything because it's way too big. What if people were just to take one step at a time? Do the small thing, that you need to do, and actually start moving. That way, at some point, you'll get to look back and say, "Wow, this is what we built."
Yeah.
And that's really cool. I like the resiliency, part of it. And I think we're talking offline. You started the company at first, but you were working. You ended up having to stop it, right?
Yeah.
And then you got back into it. Talk to us about that just a little bit.
Yeah. So it actually started as a blog in like 2017. And that's where I would do my spotlights. So I was just wanting to create a space, for women. Like you didn't have to be a business owner or feel like you're someone super big, like a boss or whatever. I was just spotlighting, every woman, like they all deserve to have an article about them. You don't need to be someone super whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like people feel like you need to be someone really big to have an article about you, but that's how it started. And then like a year later, I was like, oh, I want to do the thing I've always wanted to do, which was make the t-shirts. So I made my first shirt, and then I only literally had one shirt, and that was it. And then a year later, I was like, oh, I'll make another one, but. That was kind of like when I felt capped out, because I didn't really know how to run a business.
Gotcha.
I was doing it all through my blog. It wasn't really like an e-commerce website. So I kind of just felt like I wasn't really sure how to scale it or go from there. And also, the pandemic hit, and we were expecting our baby girl. And so I just decided to, take a break from it. And then actually, like my husband ended up buying me a heat press. And that was like in 2021. And I decided that, I also was leaving my job to be with my baby full time. And at that time, I was like, oh, we have the heat press. I can start making my apparel by myself now instead of going through third parties. And so that's kind of how I picked it back up. I relaunched my business in November of 2022.
Nice.
So yeah, and now we're here. So.
Going on almost 2 years, coming back strong.
Yep.
I mean, that happens, right? You start something and you have to reevaluate after you actually get a clear mind of where you're going.
Yeah.
My company, I started my company called Rhythm Creative Lab. That's what it was called at first. And because I came from a dancing background, music, and it also always went in that direction. And then eventually and that's the thing about starting. You just start and you figure it out as you go, right? If I didn't start, I wouldn't be here.
Yep.
Eventually, I figured out a more of the plan that where God was leading me, and eventually called it Creative Collection. And because we all have a collection of creativity, and that collection of creativity is what God has deposited within us for us to use.
Yeah.
You know, every time people talk about niche down, but yes, niche down to a specific thing, but also use everything God is giving you. And there's a strategic way of doing that.
Yeah.
I actually just released my ebook.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
it's up. I haven't really marketed it or put it. This is the first time I'm actually saying that I've released it.
Oh, okay.
It is out as of last night. I put it up on the
Congrats.
store and
I
everything.
need to check it out.
Yeah, and it's basically talking about how if you don't feel fulfilled in whatever it is you're doing, how can you get there? It's called Next Steps to Begin. Using your God-given gift, to unlock the path to success. And that's what hopefully this podcast is doing for people. And that's why we're bringing on people like yourself that are building whatever scale it is, you're doing something and you're building, you're stepping forward and you're moving, with it. And that is admirable, So if you're still watching with us, I'd like for you guys to click the subscribe button. Go ahead and subscribe. If you're listening on audio podcast, share it with someone, leave a review, leave a comment. That's how other people are going to hear what it is that we're talking about here. So moving on to the next thing. This is a funny story. And what was it, 2016?
Yep.
Yeah. 2016, I started my company, Rhythm Creative Lab, and my friend Darrell, who was on the podcast, I believe, episode number 3.
Shout out Darrell.
Shout out to Darrell, my guy. He brought me on, he trained me, and we started filming weddings. And your wedding was my first ever wedding that I ever filmed.
Yep.
Yes. And you were listening to a pod, you said.
Yeah.
Me and Darrell's pod, and you heard something that, filming a wedding, blah, 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 and yeah, talk through that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, because I've listened to all your podcasts. They're amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this. I've learned a lot. So, but yeah, I was listening to that one. I was like, oh, Darrell, like I know him. And you guys had said, I had no idea that it was like your first wedding that you ever did. You were saying that, and then that you cringe when you see the video. and I was like, wait, they're talking about our wedding. And then I'm like, we thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
So like, and I think you guys were saying on there how like you're hard on yourselves.
Yeah.
Like, cause to us, like it literally looked perfect and we cherished that.
Right.
But it's just so funny. Like I was listening to it and I'm just like, oh, that's my wedding they're talking about.
Yeah. It's funny because like as videographers and photographers, literally as soon as we're done with a project, we already feel better than when we started that project, or like we've learned something new. And that's how, looking at it, 8 years now, and seeing like how far me, Darrell, Darrell hit 10 years just recently, just this past week, and just seeing how far we've come, it's like, man, looking back at it, we would cringe, but it was. Not to say it wasn't a great video. It was a great video, great wedding, beautiful atmosphere. It was actually raining. You guys were under umbrellas, and it was fun. It was a good time. But yeah, you guys have celebrated. That's 8 years for you guys now.
Yeah,
almost.
well, going on 7.
Going on 7.
Yeah.
Yep. Going on 7 years. So that's a huge accomplishment.
Yes.
Even with everything that you're doing. So, and even as we're on that side of marriage, you guys have your daughter. How does that play into your business?
Plays a lot. I mean, I couldn't do this if I didn't have a supportive husband. So I'm just blessed to have that and supportive family members. They watch her when I have to like do pop-up shops or do anything, making my items. Like he steps in. And then just being able to show my daughter like that mom can own a business and women can do that. She recently came with me to a pop-up shop and it was just so cute to like see her eyes like light up and like realize, because all the times I'm like, oh, I'm going to a pop-up shop and I haven't brought her yet because she's 3. But now she's like, getting to be like, okay, she won't be all running all over the place. So I was like, oh, I'll bring her to this one. So she was like piecing all the pieces together, like, oh, this is a pop-up shop. And like, she was just like, loved doing it. And she was like, even trying to like sell shirts to people like, oh, do you want this and stuff. So it's just cool to kind of like show her that like she could really do anything and like she can follow her dreams and with God, all things are possible. So yeah.
That's really cool. You mentioned pop-up shops that you do pop-up shops. What is the mindset that you have to go on when you're, deciding to go on a pop-up?
Yeah. So I recently just started them in like October of last year.
Okay.
Because I was like really nervous to get into that. I've never did it. And so now it's honestly one of like my most favorite things to do as my business. Like with my business, I love meeting the people, and a lot of the times like a lot of people just resonate a lot like with the words that are on my tees, and like we have tote bags and stuff as well. But yeah, so just kind of getting in the mind frame of I pray, obviously, before. I'm just like, okay, Lord, give me the words and help this glorify you. And so I just try and kind of embody that when I'm out there and just spreading love. But yeah, and obviously my husband helps me a lot with that too. So I'm blessed. But yeah.
That's cool. So is this one of your shirt that you're wearing?
Yes, it
Still
is.
here, all God.
Yep.
That's cool. You brought us some merch.
Oh yeah.
I'm about to show this off a little bit. This is cool.
That's a new thing. Hasn't even came out yet.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Special for you.
Special. We got first dibs. This is really good quality too. Soft.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still hand print all this by yourself?
Yep.
Yeah.
In my garage.
Nice.
With no AC.
Oh man. That's
so yeah. Usually late nights doing that.
Yeah, that's the part of entrepreneurship people don't talk about.
Yep.
The late nights.
Yeah, so we normally have, it's women's tees, but I do have unisex stuff, so this is some of like a sweatshirt and
nice. That's cool.
And we have baby stuff too.
Right here. Check it out. All right, that's cool. And then you said you brought some stuff for my daughters as well.
Yes.
A little tote bag.
Yep.
Nice. This is really cool.
Oh, some stickers.
Some stickers? I'm going to pull this out. Nice.
Got bent.
This is cool. What else we got?
Lots of stuff.
Creative for more.
That's the little baby one.
Oh, this is really nice. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and then one for your wife too.
My wife as well. And then some tote bags. Yeah. These are really these are expensive to actually purchase. I work at a church, and sometimes we have to do custom stuff, and tote bags are always expensive.
Yeah.
to do and customize. So this is really cool. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for bringing those. And as we're saying, so you do all this in your garage. It is about to hit 110, I think, in Phoenix, Arizona this week, and you are there sweating and doing this thing. Why?
Yeah, it's all God. I feel like there's been a lot of times where I'm just like, oh, why am I doing this? Or, when I was saying with being resilient, it's in those moments, literally, God will send me messages or something. Someone will contact me, or someone will send me a picture of them in the shirt, and I'm just like, wow, this is literally God just giving me reminders, or even going to pop-up shops and hearing women's stories. I've had so many women share stories with me that I'm just like, wow, thank you, Lord, for.
Is there anything you could share right now? Obviously without saying the names or whatever, just something to.
So the Created for More one, there was a lady who came to the pop-up shop, and she had an adorable little boy, and she just kept being drawn to the shirt, the Created for More, and she said I'm really resonate with this because she shared that her husband had passed away recently, and they just had their child, and she was just saying that my son lives on to show for the Father. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like it was so hard not to cry. And I was just like things like that. I'm just like, wow, like, thank you, Lord. Because I just feel like I get in my head a lot at times, and you're just like, oh, well, why am I doing this? But I mean, obviously it is, your why, but sometimes it's just gets hard.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Yeah. I ask myself the same question sometimes, like, why am I doing this podcast?
Yeah.
It's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to do it weekly.
Yeah.
And every time I question that, it's funny, like, no doubt, every time I question it, there's always someone that texts me or, like, say something about it, like, hey, I love that you're doing this. Keep going. I'm just like, thank you, Lord.
I know.
And isn't that crazy when that happens?
And
because,
it is. Like, it literally just happened last night, too, because I was like, oh gosh, like, I hope I do okay on the podcast, and was nervous. And I hadn't told anyone that I was even doing the podcast. So, like, none of my friends knew. And literally last night, like, when I had said, like, literally, it was an hour before at the dinner table, I was like, I don't know, like, I'm not that I was going to cancel, but I'm just telling my husband, like, like, I'm nervous. Like, can I do this? And then literally, like, my friend texted me that she was in Seattle and her mom was wearing the shirt, and she texted me a picture of her in the shirt. And then, like, my other friend, her daughter had created for more shirt and was like, oh, Noelle wants me to show you this. And I was just like, thank you, Lord. Like, literally, you're always on time sending the reminders. So it even happened last night.
That's awesome. That's cool. That's cool. Those little reminders, keeps us going. Hey, you're doing the work of the Lord. So that's good. So try to share, like, a difficult time. I know we're still on this, like, a difficult time where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, when was that?
So, yeah, like, when I first started heat pressing the shirts myself, that was, like, a whole learning curve that I was kind of not expecting. And I had made, like, a first batch of them. And, I started getting some messages from, luckily they were just, like, my close friends, that it wasn't, like, people I didn't know. But they started saying, oh, like, I washed the shirt, like, 2 times and the decoration's coming off. And I was just like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen. And just kind of learning the process. Like, obviously I've mastered it now, but like, that was something that I wasn't expecting. And that was kind of difficult because I was just like, oh, well, I'm doing everything that it's saying to do. Why isn't it working? And it just literally had to press and press and press, like, pressing the shirts and learning how to make it. That was kind of a difficult thing that I kind of worked through so far. Luckily, I haven't had that many super crazy things happen. So we'll see.
yeah, for sure. That's cool.
But also I would say creating the website was really hard too. Like, I didn't know how to do that, but I used Shopify. And kind of building a website from scratch was a little difficult.
For sure.
Yeah.
I used to I've done some web design for other people. Eventually, I niched down and said, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I just do it for myself now.
Awesome.
It's a whole headache for me to, like, learn something new. So I totally get that.
Yeah,
for
I know.
Sure.
I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to do HTML coding. I'm like, I wish I did. The MySpace days, like, we used to know how to code in MySpace. But I don't remember those anymore. And obviously I need. Yeah.
Nah, that's really cool. Now that's cool, to see, your journey, where you've come from, where you are now. Where do you see yourself going in about 5 years from now?
In about 5 years, I would like to have our apparel in some brick and mortar spots. That would be a dream. I would but I would want to I want to create kind of like a women's event or like a women's gathering to just kind of to talk to women and just kind of create like a more deeper community.
For sure.
And I think just keep growing, keep coming out with different apparel, and those are kind of like my main goals right now.
Nice. Those are totally achievable for sure. Even in this realm of, like, doing stuff online, there's so much available, to be able to do that easily. And I think you guys for sure could accomplish that. Yeah, definitely. So again, started this podcast as it's hard to start, like, when you started, what was that process like? Did you immediately register your LLC, do all that, or did you just start going and then eventually?
Yeah, no, I literally, back in 2017, I just started. I just got the blog, and then when I did the shirts, I was just like, oh, I'll just do it. I didn't do the LLC, but when I relaunched,
Yeah.
I obviously did it, like, got my LLC, got the e-commerce website up. So yeah, I feel like it is like you do just have to start,
Yeah.
because otherwise you won't
You want to
do it, or it doesn't always need to be perfect to start. So,
Right. That's good.
'cause, yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect to start. Yeah. What would you tell anyone listening to this now? They're thinking about starting something. There's maybe something in their minds that they're looking to do. What would you tell them? And even if it's like specific to like women and how to empower them, like what would you tell them? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just tell them to, like what we've been saying, to just start, or even just like, if I'm a big writer, like I love notebooks. So I'm just like, I feel like just writing it down, whatever you're trying to do, just write it down. And I feel like when we write things down, like literally something happens where we feel like we have to do it, or it's like, it's one step closer to making it a reality.
Yeah.
So I would just say to do something simple like that. If you know people doing what you do, or what you want to get into doing, like, talk to people. Don't be afraid to ask for advice. I did that when I started, like, the more of like my e-commerce and getting more designs. Like, I talked to some friends that that have businesses, and they were a huge blessing. So yeah, that's what I would say.
That's cool. Nice. So I follow you online on Instagram. I've seen some of the stuff that you're doing. How do you go about creating content?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've heard your podcast, and I keep hearing you say video is, I definitely need to do better at that. But yeah, I mean, I try to stay as active as I can.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, obviously, how I started was also just like kind of having empowering quotes. So like I still do that today, like where I like to have like good messages that I share on there. And then, just me modeling stuff sometimes, or like if I have the people that have bought things, I kind of use that. I mean, I would definitely say it's something I need to grow in. So I'm trying. That's my next thing, but something I'm still working on.
Right.
Doing.
Like the video side of things.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. You do a lot of like interviews with other women, and you write their stories out and publish that. So
Yeah.
that is a form of content,
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So there's something that I've been processing in my head, and it's like, I'm gonna say, people are probably gonna be like, what? Jesus was a content creator. Yeah.
And how so?
How so? He wrote a lot of stories.
True.
He wrote a lot of stories in the Bible, and 2,000 plus years later, people are still reading his content. So
Facts.
it wasn't video. It was like, as long as the story is good, and as long as there's something in there that is impactful and empowering to people, people are gonna come back to it. And that's why I say Jesus was the best content creator ever.
Yeah, that's you need to put that on a shirt.
I do.
That's very true.
Yeah. I'm actually coming out with some shirts here.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be like my wife. Actually, we had like an old apparel thing that we did.
Oh, nice.
And then the babies came, and it was like, yeah. So, but I learned from that process of doing that the first time, and so now I'm actually just putting out stuff on my website. Not really like trying to like push it as an apparel company. It's just stuff for people. Like this one, created to create.
Yeah.
Something that I've always said.
Yeah.
People, we're all created to create. And the first thing we see God as is a creator. So therefore, if we see ourselves within Him and in the image of Him and His likeness, then therefore we are creatives as well. And so, just trying to do that, trying to push that out a little bit more.
That's exciting, and I like that shirt.
I appreciate it.
Looks nice.
Should be good. Should be good. But I think that's it for today. I don't know if there's anything else we haven't touched on that you'd like to share, or where people could find you, whatever that is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only advice that I would say is just to to get comfortable trusting God's timeline over your life. I feel like a lot of times, we want things now, we want it how we want it, but like literally God he knows what he's doing,
Yeah.
and he's leading us, and we need to like trust that he knows what's best for us, and
Right.
just kind of be at peace with that. And then if you want to follow me, you could find me at Creatively Linked on Instagram, and my website is creativelynkedapparel.com.
Nice. You guys go get some stuff from there. And that's cool that, what you said about, how like God knows exactly where he's leading us. Tony Robbins, business coach, it says this. It says sometimes people overestimate what they could do, underestimate what they could do in a year, but overestimate what they could do in 5 years. And it's true.
Yeah.
If we take the little steps that we need to take right now, there's a lot that could happen within the next year. And we look 5 years from now, our lives are totally different. My life is different because I have a business. My life is different because of the things that I'm doing. If I didn't start this, I'll still be that shy, quiet kid that isn't talking to anyone, that is sitting in the corner by himself. Okay, that's extreme. I wasn't sitting in the corner by myself, but you get the point.
Yeah.
And same for you. You're an introvert.
Yeah.
But being able to go out to the pop-up shops and do the things that, God has instilled within you, that's what's, pushing you to do more.
For sure. Yeah.
Created for more.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So thank you guys for joining us on the Creative Den Pod today. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on audio podcast, go ahead and leave us a review, comment, and share this with someone else that needs to know that whatever it is that God has put within them, they need to start building that thing now. Don't look at the grand scheme of things. Look at the next step that you need to do. If you need some valuable tips or whatever it is, go ahead and grab my ebook. It's in the link in my bio. It's in the show notes here that I'll link to the YouTube channel. So go ahead and grab that. Like I always say, we're all created to do something, so go create.